Hello everyone, and welcome to What's Your Story. My name's GW, and today I have a very special guest with me today. Her name's Martha. Hello, Martha.
Hi.
And welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing your testimony with us. Really appreciate that.
Well, thank you for letting me be here to share my story. I have been praying a lot on how to even begin my story. And first and foremost, I want you to understand that it may sound like a tragedy at first, but it's not. It truly isn't. And God pulled me through a lot of things. And I want to share a scripture with you, my favorite scripture to begin with, which is in Genesis 50:20, which talks about how someone meant evil for someone, but God meant it for good. And the purpose is to bring more people to Him. And I think that my story does that. So I start just by saying that I was raised by a single mom. My dad wasn't in my life from the time I was 3 until I was in my 40s. And then in my 40s, he came back into my life. So I never really had a father figure in my house. And so I've always wished for a father figure and everything, and always sought a father figure. But in the meantime, as I was growing up, my mom had 4 brothers, and 2 of them ended up molesting me. And they didn't know that each of them were doing it. It was separate occasions and everything like that. And then my mom moved in with a cousin of hers, and her boys molested me as well. So several family members throughout my life. I can't tell you the time frame anymore because I have memory blocks on some of that where I don't know. I know some ages, not all ages, but it was all before 6th grade that all of that transpired. And my mom was never settled, and we moved from state to state and never raised mostly here in Kissimmee in here. But at one time, I think I lived in more houses than I was years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Just never settled or anything like that. And then my grandma, who was my real caretaker, died when I was in the 5th grade. And, she raised me to be trusting in God and just knowing. So even after everything that had happened by the time I was in the 6th grade, I never blamed God, and I always believed. And my mom was one of those moms that sent you on the Sunday bus. So I was raised in church, even though my mom didn't go to church, and everything like that. And, for a long time, I felt like I had a sign on my head that said it's okay to abuse me. Because even after I became a teenager, and I met a boy, and I was 18, and I wanted to do anything and everything to get out of my mom's house. And so I left with this boy, and this boy ended up raping me, and I came home pregnant, and I had a choice to make. And but in my head, abortion wasn't ever a choice. And I gave birth to this boy in 1990, and I gave him up for adoption. In between time, he had his life and everything, and I had a boss who pinned me against the counter. So a lot of my life was about abuse, and a lot of sexual abuse, I really did feel like I wore a sign on my head that just said it's okay to abuse me, and I never understood it. And you asked me once if I was mad at God, and I said, no, I am not mad at God. I believe that we live in a fallen world, and bad things happen, and I believe that God pulled me through. He knew that it was going to happen, because nothing surprises God. But he pulled me. He gave me the strength to go through that part of my life. I gave my son up for adoption. 6 years ago, we have been in reunion. He's back in my life. And last year he made me a nana. So he has a baby boy of his own, about to have a second one. We don't get to see each other, and for a while we talked all the time. And he's really a miniature of me, which is amazing that I didn't raise him for 26 years, but when we started talking, he's me, like in every sense of the word, me. We like the same things, like, it's just, we're amazing. We used to talk constantly throughout the years. He's a typical male that kind of doesn't talk to your mom very often, and at one time he had told me that he had 3 moms. He had a mother, he had a stepmom, and he had a mom, and he told me I was his mom. And being in reunion is not always easy. It's actually kind of hard because for me, I gave him up for adoption because I loved him. It's not that I didn't want him. I just had no way of raising him. I had no support at home. I didn't have an education. I hadn't even graduated high school yet. So I gave him up for adoption to give him a better life. And I think people have a stigma about adoption. I know I wrote a paper once about adoption and how that people judge the mom who gave up for adoption because obviously she slept around or she was on drugs, and that's not always the case. Or they have a stigma on the person who adopted because why can't you have your own children? But there's also a judgment about the baby, like you're adopted, and it's not like that all the time. Like it's not like that any time, honestly. It's a gift to give another family a child. It's God's gift. I mean, we're adopted into his kingdom, and he talks strongly about that all the time, and but I find that people judge others for things like that. But if I hadn't done what I did, he wouldn't be in my life now,
and that's a lot of blessings.
It's a lot of blessings, a lot of blessings. And his wife is lovely. She makes sure that he stays in contact with me, as a male, they don't always contact their moms. And she's like, no, you need to call her, and everything, which is fantastic. And that little boy he's got me wrapped, my grandson, and everything. And then
so it's almost like you gained a daughter also.
I did. My husband and I met my husband in 1993. So we've been together for a long time, and we had our daughter in 95. So I raised a daughter, and she's great, and everything. And she always knew, well, I think I told her when she was 9 that she had a brother out in the world somewhere, and she seemed proud. Like she was just proud of the fact that she had a brother. And then she got older, and she was technically an only child until the 10th grade when we brought her best friend into our house, and we raised her the rest of her high school through college. But she kind of got jealous for a little while because she was like, she told me once, she goes, Mom, I know it's dumb, but I was scared that he was going to take another piece of your heart.
Wow.
And I said, honey, you have to understand he already had that piece of my heart. Nothing can replace her. Like she's my lifeline, and the difference between him coming back into our life and my other daughter, who I consider my daughter in every sense of the word. I may not have given birth to her, but she is my kid, is Hannah brought her. My biological daughter brought her into the house, and she didn't have any say about this other,
Yeah.
But since then, I mean, she's met him. We've all met together and everything. The first time I met him, we went to Georgia to meet halfway because he lives in a different state. And he said, all right, I know you're going to cry, but you can't cry in public, and I said, okay. And he gets to my hotel room, and I obviously cried. But then we went to see the Braves game in their new stadium, which was actually a lot of fun. But at one point, I sat in the stadium, and tears started streaming down my face because it was the first time I realized that my daughter was on my right-hand side and my son was on my left-hand side for the very first time in my life.
Wow.
It's still not easy because I want more. I want to see him. I want to talk to him all the time. And it's a balancing act because I didn't raise him, and I gave up those rights to be his mom. But in my heart, I'm his mom. you know, but I don't take the place of his adopted mom. And I think most parents, adopted parents, are worried that the biological mom just wants to take their place. And that is so, it's not my purpose. My purpose is just to have a different influence in his life, another influence in his life.
Yeah.
You know, even when he asked me finally about his biological father, I let him navigate the conversations, and when he's ready, when in his timing. And for a long time, it was just texting. He only texted me for a long, long time. And then one day he says, "Can I call you?" And I was in the middle of doing homework, and I just pushed my papers aside and I said, "Call me." And I remember distinctly the first time I heard his voice. And then a little while later, he started asking me questions that was on his heart, and asked me about his biological father. And I said, "Are you ready to hear it?" And he said, "I am." I said, "Okay." I said, "Your biological father raped me." And he got so angry. He was just so angry. And he said, I can't talk right now. And then I said, "Okay, you don't have to right now." And then he's like, I came from rape." And I said, "You didn't. I said, I was raped, but you came from God." And I said, "And God can take the worst of situations and turn them into beautiful things. And you're the beautiful thing that came out of that." Wow. You know? And he said, "Okay, thank you. I gotta go." And just couldn't talk. I said, "Okay." So I went to take a shower and get dressed. And I do my best thinking in the shower. There's some distractions. And I started praying. I was like, I just need to know what to say. And so I sent him a text and I said, "Hey, you're probably not ready to hear this." I said, "I love you. I wanted nothing more in my life but to be your mom." I said, "It doesn't matter the beginning of the situation. It doesn't. It just doesn't." I said, "You're here now in everything." And it took him 30 seconds and he called me and he said, "I love you too."
Oh, wow. That's beautiful. Yeah.
Very first time. He has stopped asking about the biological father. He doesn't even care anymore because of the situation. It's been a long road, but such a blessing too. Like, I do have an extended family. I never thought I would. I started off with an only child, and now I have 2 daughters, a son, a son-in-law, a grandchild, one on its way, and a son-in-law. So my family went to being 3 to now I have a full house. Yeah. You know, and I think I was born to be a mom. You know, yeah. I just get so much joy from it.
Yeah. You just have a lot of love to give.
Mm-hmm. I do. Yeah. I do. Even when it's funny because I went to college and later in life. Well, I went to college when I was 19, right after I gave birth to my son. And I wasn't ready. I wasn't mentally ready. I wasn't physically ready. I just wasn't. And I hadn't dealt with the molestations either. Mm-hmm. I hadn't dealt with life, all of the abuse. So I went to school and dropped out. Then I met my husband, had my family, did my thing. And then 2014, I was like, it's my turn. I was getting passed over for positions that I was more than capable of doing, but I didn't have my degree. Okay. You know, and I was like, okay, it's my turn. Both my daughters were seniors in high school at the time. And so they were old enough, they were doing their own thing. And I walked into the doors at Palm Beach Atlantic University here in Orlando. Wow. And I felt like I was at home the moment I walked into these doors. And in 2000, but I was here just to ask questions. But then I ended up applying. And it was funny at the time, the person at the front desk, I had known for 20 years and didn't know that she was here.
Oh, wow.
And because we had lost touch, we had worked together like when where our children were like in preschool. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and I thought, okay, Lord, I know somebody here, you know, mm-hmm. like maybe you are directing me to be here. And so I ended up applying. But even during that first class, I was scared to death. I thought, I I can't do this. It's been 25 years since I've been in school. I don't know that I'm smart enough to go to college, And then I went to school. I finished in fall of 2017 with a 4.0 GPA. I graduated top honors from the Orlando campus. And
that's awesome.
When I walked across that stage, I just cried. I'm like, I did it. And it wasn't about the grades, honestly. It was about the accomplishment of doing something that I had started 25 years ago. And I proved to myself that I could do it, and solely with God's help, because I had the support of my husband. I had the support of my children. I didn't miss any sporting event that they did, even while working full time and going to school.
Wow.
I figured out a way to juggle it, be part of their lives, and still do what God was calling me to do.
That's awesome.
And then I got hired. The university hired me 2 months after I graduated to just be the front desk person. And then that fall, I started my master's program. And then the admissions counselor left, and I said, that job's mine. And they hired me as the admissions counselor. And I love it because this place changed my life. It gave me the confidence to do things I never thought I could do. I meet people that I didn't think I would ever get to meet, and do things I never thought I could do. And now I get to help others do that.
And that's awesome. And they're a Christian university.
Yes, we are a Christian university, all godly principles. My master's in leadership is based in servant leadership.
Okay. And that's how you serve.
That's how I serve. That is how I serve here, helping others overcome their fears. And it's funny, I'm an admissions counselor, but they take that counselor very seriously, because I don't have a counseling degree, but they trust me enough to share their stories a lot of times in my office, and what they've gone through and why they're here. And I can sit there and empathize with them and give them the support that not everyone can do, because they haven't been on those roads.
You have a life experience degree.
Yes.
And no one can take that away from you.
No one can take that away.
And the thing is, from the eyes, you don't judge.
No.
Because the things you've been through. And like you said, that's where you have the heart and the empathy.
Yeah.
That you understand.
And the road isn't smooth. I've been through therapy twice to overcome some of the things that I've come through. I even, my husband and I, and with my daughter before we had other children, went through a homeless situation in 2008 when the economy crashed. My husband was working 2 jobs, I was working 1. We lost all 3 jobs within a week. Wow. So the family, as the 3 of us, lived in a hotel for a year trying to, get out of it. So I know that side of it too. I do have a passion for homelessness. Before I worked here, I worked in the homeless department in the school district, which was a blessing all in itself. So I believe that God has placed me in different situations to use my voice to help others. I've just been blessed. I know that sometimes when I tell my story, and if I just blurt it out, it's a little overwhelming, because they're like, oh, I don't know what to say or I could handle that. But I'm 50 years old, and it's taking me 50 years. It took me 49 years to actually, something in my head switched and said, you're okay. And God's got you. And for a long time, I wanted to know about the molestations, exactly the timeline, when it happened, how it happened. That I'm like, it's good enough to know that it just happened. I don't need to know all the details. All I need to know is that God meant it for something good. And I believe that. I believe that God meant everything for good, which is why Genesis is so special to me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it all just rolls together. And it's like a puzzle. Sometimes we don't understand or see the full picture. No, we just don't. And something in your head just has to click sometimes. And it's almost like the cartoons with the light bulb over your head that bling. That's exactly, I swear I saw the light bulb come over my head one time and was like, oh, okay. God's got you. God's pulled you through all of that. And He's giving you so much that you can offer the world now. You know, and I say that humbly. I don't mean it as a boastful situation. I mean it humbly, that I believe that God gave me the tools to help others. You know, because sometimes it's hard to say things like that without sounding boastful. And I think women in particular, people think that you're boasting, and I don't mean it that way. I definitely mean that God has carried me through.
Yeah, and that's so awesome. And just think where you were put onto the church bus.
I was put on that church bus.
Put on that church bus.
I was baptized at 12 at a VBS, at a vacation Bible school, because at the time when you're little, that's what you do. You grow up in the church, you get baptized at vacation Bible school. I did that. I don't know that I fully understood what I was doing at the time, except that I knew that I believed in Jesus. Yeah.
And that's so awesome.
It's when you get older, you start really understanding what that means.
Yeah. It's like you process it through your mind, and things kind of reflect.
Yeah.
And that's an amazing story because of all the lives that you touch now, because you see quite a few people.
I see quite a few people in different realms and different walks of life. Yeah. I am blessed to be where I am. I am blessed to work here, honestly. Like when I started school in 2014, one, I didn't think I was going to work here. Two, I also now teach here. I started teaching here last semester, and it's the non-traditional foundations class. So it's the students' very first class. It's the ones that they're still afraid, they're uncertain, they don't know how to navigate. And I love it because I remember being that student. I remember being in that classroom thinking, I'm dumb and I don't think I should be here. And it's wrong. That's Satan talking to them. Because now I get to say, God brought you this far for a reason. He brought you through these doors. He brought you in this classroom for a reason.
And that just gives the inspiration, just so they can see, I can do this.
I can do this. I always tell them my PBA story first thing, through admissions, but then I also tell them in the classroom, because I just think it helps them. And because when I say non-traditional, I mean they're the same as me. They probably started school 10, 20 years ago. They're coming back to school. Either they never finished their degree, or they always had a dream of getting their degree and they never even started. It's those students that I get to impact their lives.
Okay. And that's big.
It's big.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's awesome. Well, do you have any encouraging words or anything that you want to share with us?
Yes. That just because you go through the bad things in life, and some are really bad things, some are hurtful things, just take a deep breath. And I know that sounds crazy, but take a deep breath and just realize that God didn't do it. God is not the one who's doing this to you. That we live in a fallen world. God is there pulling you through that, and that you're not weak, you're not foolish. A lot of times people who go through abuse get this in their head that they did something to cause it. They are the ones they must have given off a vibe. If they were raped, it's their fault. It's not your fault. It isn't. It's the person who did it to you. It's their fault. And that God will pull you through it, and that He's making you strong, and that He's giving you a voice to help others.
Awesome. And I want to thank you for using your voice into speaking to the world.
Thank you.
Because this is really going to help others.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate you sharing your story from your heart, because I know you did. All right, everyone. Thank you for watching Watch Your Story, and we'll see you on the next one.